Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you're here, you're curious about how AI actually works under the hood, and so am I. And that is why I made this course. Today is just an orientation. There are no equations, and there's no stress. I'll show you what statistical learning actually is, why does it matter, and where are we going together with this course. Let's dive into this. There's one question I'd like you to ask before we move forward. What do Netflix recommendations, a cancer diagnosis, or self-driving cars have in common? They all run on statistical learning. There's the same toolkit, but the problems that these toolkit is applied to are different. And that's what's exciting about this field. The applications look totally different on the outside, but under the hood, it's the same handful of ideas at work. If we learn these ideas, the doors are going to open everywhere, whether it's medicine, finance, or astrophysics, you name it. So let's get clear on what statistical learning actually is. Here's the simplest possible definition that I'd like to give you. We have data. We want to do one of the two things with it. Option one is to predict something, and option two is to discover something. And that is the whole field, if we are broadly speaking, without going into any nuances. When you are predicting, like predicting someone's wage or whether an email is a spam, that's supervised learning. And why do we call it supervised? Because we have the right answers to learn from. The other side is unsupervised. There are no answers, there is just data. We are looking into patterns. So let's picture this together. We dump a pile of mixed up Lego pieces and sort them into groups. Nobody told us the categories. We just saw what goes together. And that's unsupervised learning in a nutshell. Both styles come up constantly in this course. And let me show you some of the real examples that we are going to work with. So I'd like you to focus on these three data sets. There are three different problems, and each problem targets a different piece of the concepts we are trying to cover. First up is the wage data. Thousands of people, we know their age, their education, the year, and we want to predict their income. Since the answer is a number, we call this regression. And we are going to see in a couple of seconds when an answer is a category, we call it classification. That's different from the statistical labeling of linear and logistic regression. In machine learning, we call it regression or classification instead. So I'd like you to keep that in mind. Moving on to the second problem or the second data set. It's the stock market. Will the S&P 500 go up tomorrow or down? There are just two options to consider. And that kind of problem is called classification. Let's shift gears and focus on the third data set. That's gene expression for cancer cells. And here's something that I'd like you to focus on. In this data set, we have nothing to predict. We just have measurements and we ask one question. Do these cells fall into natural groups? That's the unsupervised side. These three examples are going to cover the whole map. Now let's zoom into each type. The first is supervised learning. The diagram on the right is the entire idea in three boxes. The top box has our inputs. For wage data, that's age, education, and year. The middle box is our model. Think of a model as a recipe. Inputs go in and predictions come out. At the bottom, there are the predictions themselves. In this case, we have predicted wage, and that's it. That's all supervised learning is. Every method we'll study fits this picture, be it linear regression, decision trees, or neural networks. What changes is what's inside the middle box. The recipe gets fancier, but the shape of the entire workflow stays the same. Now let's flip to the other side. Let's just focus on unsupervised learning now. This one confuses people a lot, so stay with me as we talk through this. Here's the setup. There are 64 cancer cell lines, and for each cell line, we have measured almost 7,000 genes. And that's a lot of data. But here's the catch. Nobody told us what kind of cancer cell each one is. We are working blindly. So what can we even do with this information? We can ask just a simple question. Do these cell lines fall into natural groups? I'd like you to look at the plot on the right and focus. Yes, they actually do fall into separate categories, 4 clear clusters to be specific. And here's the cool part. When scientists checked, those clusters matched the real cancer types. The algorithm found real biology without being told anything. And that's the magic of unsupervised learning. So here's where we are headed. There are 7 big topics, and I wouldn't want you to worry if some of these words look intimidating right now. We'll pack each topic step by step. We'll start with the foundations, which would tell us how do we even know if a model is any good. Then we are going to focus on the linear methods that are still used everywhere. Then resampling, that involves clever tricks for testing models. Then there is regularization, that keeps models from getting too clever for their own good. And that's the concept we are going to discuss in more detail. Then we are going to shift gears. We are going to focus on nonlinear methods, trees, random forests, support vector machines, and deep learning. We then close with unsupervised methods. By the end, we are going to see how every piece connects. But how does this course actually run? Let me show you. Here's something that I would want to be upfront about. This course is not actually a lecture series where I just keep talking and you are sitting there listening. Here's the rhythm we'll follow. First, I'm going to explain the idea, draw it. I'll show you the intuition visually. Then we'll open up Python notebook together. We apply the method to real data. Finally, we are going to look at the output and figure out what it actually means. Every method will have a concept, code, and interpretation, and every notebook is yours to keep. So as we move forward, I would request you to pause the videos, run the code, change the numbers, and break things on purpose. And that's how we are going to learn. Don't just watch, I'd like you to type along. So let's close this session with 3 big takeaways from today. So what should you take from today? 3 things. Number 1, statistical learning is the foundation of modern AI. Master these ideas and you can work in almost any data-driven field. Number 2, every problem we'll meet is either supervised or unsupervised if we broadly speak. Predict something or find structure, and that's going to be your math. Number 3, you don't need to be a math wizard to solve problems. You need to think clearly, you need to question your assumptions, and those skills matter more than any equation. So what's next? From here, we are going to build up the foundations on how models learn. Then we work through every method on the roadmap, with the code, with the data, and with your hands on the keyboard. So thank you so much for being here and sticking along. I cannot wait to dive in with you. See you in the next one.